Hello. Hey everyone. So, sorry about the technical difficulties, but yeah, apparently the last stream I set up, I did that through the YouTube Live option, and for future reference, I'm never going to do that again. That is absolute AIDS apparently, and this like the stream key that YouTube, the live control room generates is completely fucking bugged, and I have no idea what the okay. Here's the. I'm gonna go ahead and shill this because I've been shilling that fucking broken link for the last couple of hours. And yeah, so I mentioned in the chat of the last stream that I was gonna reschedule, and I guess I'm not. So I'm glad that that worked out. How do I feel about jewels? What exactly are you referring to? Unbound Crispy Boy asked that in chat, by the way. Hey everybody who's just tuning in right now. Um, what did you mean by jewels? All right. Well, in the meantime, while everybody's getting here, I guess that I'm gonna go ahead and set up the the window here for Hollow Knight. Hey, Spooner. All right, everybody's showing up. It's good. Oh, the vape? No, I don't vape. Sorry. Yeah, I don't really know much about it. It's just I don't smoke and I don't vape. I find both of those activities to be a complete waste of time. This game's boring. Well, I haven't played this game except for last night while I was getting this all set up, while I was like preparing for the stream, and I was making sure that I had the settings, optimal so it didn't come in full screen so I could, read the chat as well. And I didn't so I could edit the sound settings so that I'd be able to talk and there really wouldn't be any sound in the background. I played this for like 5 minutes. It seemed really good, but I don't know. I didn't even really make it past like the first screen. I was basically just testing the game to make sure that it worked on stream. I know that it's like a Metroidvania style indie game. There's a lot of those coming out lately, and I don't know. I like Castlevania. I like Metroid. And by Castlevania I mean I've played some of the originals like Castlevania 2 and 3 on the NES, but like Dawn of Sorrow as well. The reason why the term Metroidvania was coined in response is because of those newer games, and those are the ones I'm talking about as well. But anyway, so this is before we get started, I just wanted to mention really quickly for anyone who was curious, just for a brief update to what's been going on this last month. So I've been sort of I haven't been uploading as much content lately as you might be able to see. That's not going to be permanent, but the reason for that is because, for one thing, the development on FNet has it started getting very it started, we've started actually making quite a bit of progress with FNet. Basically, all of the core components are done. It's what we're doing at this point is, for one, we're trying to make it as expansive as possible, so that people are incentivized to use FNet for basically everything, and a part of this is developing new components, but also the thing is there are a lot of components which can make a good network protocol, good operating system, um, which already exist and have existed for the last for over a decade in some cases, but they've been deliberately suppressed by the state through the ISPs by the state not allowing the ISPs to actually uh, develop anything using them. A great example would be uh, the addressing system known as IPv6. IPv6 has existed since like 2004, but yeah, because it allows for something known as multicasting, which you can go ahead and look this up. But in uh, to describe it as simply as possible, it would use more of your bandwidth while you're operating a decentralized service, and it would make decentralized services more efficient than proprietary ones, and that would automatically, if IPv6 were to become the market standard, all the ISPs would be out of business, and so would most of the companies like Google, which operate around proprietary models of uh, hosting their servers. So another project which I've been involved in, this doesn't have anything to do with FNet, but if you're in my Discord server, which again I'll go ahead and oh shit, I fucking I just posted an at everyone in my Discord server and I didn't even give out the link to the stream. But yeah, so if you're in my Discord server, I've been talking a lot about this MMO, which went offline back in like 2011, known as Windslayer. And for those of you, you can still find some footage of it on YouTube because it was around from like 2009 to 2011. And it was probably the smoothest gameplay ever. It was an RPG, but the combat system, it wasn't like a grind fest. It was actually pretty based, really. And but basically, what I'm working on creating a private server for that game, and it's going to be an open source. It's going to be an open source project, mainly so that it'll never go offline again. And yeah, there's also like I don't want to mention the contacts, but there's also a company which is interested. Like I've essentially I've explained why this game would be good for the current MMO market, which I don't know if you're watching the MMO market, but the MMO market basically doesn't exist at this point in time. And I've convinced a company to start looking into creating a reboot for Windslayer. And that'll be out probably more news about that will probably be out late 2019, 2020. But yeah, I'm sorry that I'm not putting out as many videos lately. I'm just busy as fuck working on this stuff. But anyway, so I'll read some of the comments in chat here. There aren't any more questions. Okay, I guess I'll start playing Hollow Knight. Who wants me to skip the backstory? If you want me to skip the backstory, press 1 in chat. Okay, everybody's saying a lot more people who want the back. turn the audio down a little bit so that doesn't drown me out on OBS. But yeah, so there's more people who want to watch it from the looks of the chat right now than want me to skip it. So I'm gonna go ahead and play it. Paraphrase the backstory. Well, like I said, I was basically I don't really even know much about this game. I just opened it briefly yesterday so that I could test it out and make sure that it runs right on OBS. So I don't really know the backstory either. Yeah. Oh yeah, I saw some stuff about that yesterday. You were in AIU's server fucking posting shit porn the other day. Somebody told me to play with a controller. The thing is, I have a controller, but it doesn't really work well with Steam applications. I bought it off of eBay like a year ago, and I bought it specifically to play on emulators. And yeah, it works really well on Dolphin, which is mainly what I use to boot it. I play F-Zero and Pikmin on it. It's pretty fucking great. But yeah, I've tried running it on Steam, and the controller just doesn't really work. So all right, that does. I gotta set this up so I can fucking read the chat too. Hold on a minute. Oh shit. Oh fuck. I was looking at the chat. God damn it. The controller that I fucking use is I don't even know what the brand is. I'll have to show it in. I'll have to take a picture and put it in Discord when I'm done streaming because it's actually pretty hilarious. It's like it's like it looks like it's the frame of an Xbox 360 controller, and it has like in the center the Xbox button. It says USB, and that the center button has no function. It's one of it is the most Chinese looking thing ever. It's fucking great. But and yeah, its joystick works very much like an arcade joystick, where it doesn't really have like any acceleration. It just sort of like it's in the center, and if you move it right, it jumps all the way to the right, or it jumps all the way to the left. However that works. It cost like $5 though, so I guess I got what I paid for, but I mean it works. So, do I agree with antinatalism? No. I don't think that it's an act of coercion because prior to being conceived, you didn't exist. So, digital, not analog. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not necessarily familiar with a lot of these more technical terms, even though I should be because I work with a lot of this shit. I've found myself working with it quite a bit lately. I don't know what the fuck this is. Alright, got some health apparently. This game's pretty based so far. Yeah, just for reference, where I'm at right now is farther than where I was when I was testing this game out yesterday. I gotta really move this so I can read the chat while I'm playing it. I don't think he meant a... Well, the concept of antinatalism is that being born, unless I'm misunderstanding, but it's that being born is an act of coercion because you don't have a choice in being conceived. Like I may be that's my understanding of antinatalism, and I don't see how that is a reasonable argument because the way to be a moral agent, you have to be, in order to be one, you have to be conceived. So I don't see how that's a consistent argument. It's a lot like the Rothbardian argument against the Rothbardian argument for abortions. Well, the baby is initiating force against the mother. Well, the baby didn't exist until it was conceived, so how is it, how is it doing anything? How is it initiating force? That was not a moral, that was not a it wasn't a moral agent before it was conceived. So how is conceiving it an act of aggression? And it's not a moral agent before it was conceived. How can it commit an act of aggression? It's an opposition to reproduction. No, I'm pretty sure. Well, if that's what you mean by antinatalism, then okay. But I'm pretty sure that I've seen antinatalism being referred to as an argument against the ethical legitimacy of conception. I mean, I got to admit, I am like barely paying attention to the game right now. But doesn't matter because this is a Q&A stream anyway. Not a whole lot of questions though. Yeah, playing this with the keyboard's really interesting, not gonna lie. It probably... Yeah, this game probably should be played with a controller. But, yeah, this gameplay is really smooth. I love it. What do I think of objectivism? It's cancer. That's what I think of objectivism. Somebody said they didn't realize that it was a Q&A. Well, I mean, I specified on my Patreon page I'm doing these monthly Q&As. Well, I mean, Shane did a pretty decent video on objectivism, but yeah, early on, just the idea that it's really ironically titled because in conception, objectivism is based on the premise that it's sort of a solipsistic egoist philosophy. It very explicitly argues that reality is based on like ethical realities, and the conception of reality is based on the individual senses and interpretation of the events around them. And yeah, so that's the one reason why I think ego is objectivism is cancer because it eventually going to appeal to consequentialism, and I've made some pretty extensive arguments against that. Now, as for how it exists in politics, uh, the the political state of objectivism is even worse than how it was originally proposed. Um, in concept, because objectivism more or less is just a cult around Ayn Rand at this point, and it started to get really fucking bizarre later on, like in the 60s and 70s. Like, by later on, I mean later on in Ayn Rand's life, where objective basically just came to the objectivists, basically just came to mean whatever Ayn Rand said was a fact, which is the opposite of objective. But yeah, you should read some of the stuff she started saying later on, like food and sex shouldn't be enjoyed. They should just exist for their biological necessity. Like, it is fucking clown world towards the end there. Oh shit! What the fuck is this? I was not prepared for that shit. Damn, son. I don't think I'm supposed to go that way yet. Alright. What was my worst experience at public school? That's a pretty tough question because you're basically asking me to go through 14 years of shit, because there was never really a good moment in public school, at least for me. Um, it wasn't like stereotypical. Like, I had a pretty good time socially in public school. Like, I got along with pretty much everybody. Like, I wasn't like bullied or anything. But my problem was mainly with the administration of pretty much every school that I went to. They were all a bunch of lying fucking crooks, and I had some like behavioral issues when I was in elementary school up until like middle school, and I was really sort of difficult to deal with, and so they just didn't want to deal with me, so they literally started just looking for ways um, to justify suspending me, and yeah, so that's a big part of where my distrust of the state came from. Not gonna lie, uh, because I experienced pretty much firsthand what happens when you have a centralized monopoly, and they're completely unaccountable, and there's no way to disassociate or to compete with them. They just do whatever the fuck they want, and whatever the fuck they want's most beneficial for them at the direct expense of everyone else. Like, a lot of people, I hear when they talk about anarchism, they talk about this minarchist phase that they go through more times than not, and I never really had a minarchist phase. I mean, I've probably described, like, right before becoming an Ancap as being a minarchist, but I've gone back to think about it, and I've come to realize that really wasn't that wasn't really a minarchist belief. That was more just the typical stereotypical Republican belief system. A lot of them have started calling themselves minarchists now, but if you read someone like Nozick or Tom Poole, then and I'm not like that's actually a an early Libertarian Party contributor. I don't know if he's still around or not, but Konkin had a debate with him, and Konkin just absolutely fucking creamed him. There's a guy named Tom Poole, and I feel like I had to specify that because his name sounds so similar to Tim Pool. But no, I'm not thinking of Tim Pool. There's actually a guy named Tom Poole. And that full debate is on YouTube, by the way. Which, yeah, Konkinism really, just for those who don't know, I don't know. There are a lot of people who don't seem to realize how recent of a philosopher Konkin is. Like, he just died in 2004. A lot of his like his work in public discourse is recorded. It's that recent, and you can just, if you look him up on YouTube, you'll find a lot of this stuff. I'll read some of the chat again. Let's see. Which country do I think will go anarchist first? Uh, well, based on what's happening in Greece right now, I mean, I guess we'll see how. I'm still pretty skeptical. I don't think that the European Union's just gonna sit by and let that happen. For those of you who aren't familiar with what's going on in Greece, well, you all probably know that their economy collapsed back in like 2012, and they haven't really recovered since. What a lot of people don't know, and what the news is not talking about, is that Greece has basically become unable to collect taxes because of the giant counter economy which has developed in response. Um, like in 2010, they put out that only 10% of the entire Greek population paid taxes. Like, it is just an insane amount of people, like, involved in their counter economy. And yeah, you can look up, there are a lot of mutual aid groups and a lot of counter economic firms which form in like apartment complexes there. And like Exarchia, for example, would be a good one to look up. But yeah, in Greece, it's basically there's such a large amount of the population which isn't associating with the state that like this story came out in like November of last year. They put out the government has started flying drones to spy on people in the street to try and catch them trading in cryptocurrency. But of course that hasn't worked. In fact, that's just caused them to spend more than they had, and it's going to waste because they haven't caught anybody. So yeah, one of the first countries, I think even before the global market collapse, which is coming, I think Greece is probably gonna become stateless before then, based on the current trends. And that's a very interesting development, and I haven't made any videos about it. Yeah, I'm aware that I can slash in four directions. It's hard as fuck to do that on a keyboard, which is why I probably should be playing on a controller. Like you'd have to feel this to understand. Yeah, I'm well aware that I can do that. Brazil has quite a big libertarian movement. I know, dude. If you go to like the comment section of any like Brazilian video or like any media which is popular in Brazil, you'll see a bunch of people with like Ancap avatars speaking Portuguese. It's crazy. Like POD, you guys are familiar with the band POD? Yeah, apparently they have a really large following in Brazil for some fucking reason. And if you go to their comment section, there's just a bunch of Ancaps there. It's I know why it's happening. Well, for one thing, like Brazil has had a huge problem with Marxists in the last couple decades, sort of like everywhere else in the United States. But not in the I meant the world, but yeah, the United States is a good example. So that's created a lot of anti-communist sentiment, but also you got a lot of people who are coming from Venezuela to Brazil, and you've got a really big counter economy down there. Like if you look at a lot of the crypto activity in the world, a lot of it's happening in South America, particularly Brazil. I think that's also more just because Brazil has such a large population. Bob Murphy said somewhere between 2022, 22 and 23. Didn't know that I like. Somebody said they didn't know that I like video games. Yeah, I occasionally will play games, but like I was mentioning at the beginning of the stream, I have not really had a whole lot of free time in the last month or so because of all the projects that I've been involved in. Big part of the reason why there aren't any like not a lot of videos coming out lately. But yeah, in the occasional free time that I do have, or that I am able to give myself, I will play. I don't play games like Hollow Knight typically. Typically the games that I'll play are like I'll play Battlefront 2. Like I know that sounds awful at first, but like a lot of the awful reviews for Battlefront 2, like it's a completely different game now. I'd actually encourage you guys to try it out. But yeah, they added this mode called Capital Supremacy, and it's basically like Galactic Conquest from the original Battlefront 2. It's fucking great, but there are only 2 maps on it right now. How's FNet going? Uh, we're discovering new things all the time. I guess we can. I'll put it like that. It's a constantly developing project. But yeah, like I mentioned early on, as for like the progress that we've made, um, like all the components that are going to be used in FNet are done. At this point, we're just putting them together and we're presenting them in a format which is consumer friendly. So uh, the only people who use it aren't gonna be a bunch of fucking like Linux devs. Oh fuck this room. Fuck this room. What the fuck is this? There's a wall here. Okay, so fuck. What the hell, man? Wasn't EA the developer for Battlefront? Yeah, I'm talking about EA's Battlefront. It's actually good now. It just goes to show that the solution to problems in the market is not government regulation. It's yeah, not. It's actually just reviewing the products negatively and showing everyone else that it's a bad product. That'll either get rid of the bad producers or that'll get bad products out of the market pretty quickly. In the case of a game like EA, where it can be transformed by the devs, you can just make bad products good. But yeah, very few products actually work that way. So who did 9/11? It was the Saudi Arabian government, and they were assisted by the U.S. government. James Corbett has a couple good videos and documentaries about it. The one which I find particularly compelling is the financing of the attack. But but what about my 9/11 commission report? You mean the fucking document which didn't even mention the financing? We're gonna talk about the largest terrorist attack in American history on American soil, but yeah, we're not gonna talk about financing. Not even gonna mention it. Oh shit! What the fuck is this? All right. Oh, let's read the chat some more. So when the governments of the world do start to collapse, would said governments try and nuke each other or even just the world like as a dead man switch? I mean, I don't know. They might. Wouldn't really I don't know. I guess it depends on you know, if they're going to trying to fucking thoughts are scrambling, but yeah. It depends. That doesn't really benefit them, and really the only things which benefit politicians are what benefit the interests of the state. So I don't know. I guess it depends on if they're. Oh shit, there's a boss. But anyway, I guess it depends on if the politicians are more what they would consider to be the most beneficial moves for them, killing everybody and not letting anyone live if there's no state, or to try and live without a state. I'm not gonna lie, I could see them deciding to nuke the world because yeah, without a state, I can't like when the world does go stateless. I can't imagine that politicians are like former politicians are going to be viewed too favorably by the general public. Oh shit. I'm focusing on this, so sorry if I'm not reading the chat. Oh, for fuck's sake, really? Someone's. Let me check the fucking dislikes. It's probably fucking. Yeah, it's probably Jim and his little friends. Hey, faggots, how you guys doing? Oh yeah, he's really trying to get my attention lately ever since I've stopped acknowledging his existence. It's kind of pathetic. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this, but he's apparently going to do this stream tomorrow called refuting the Neo Ancaps, and he's pretty much exclusively referring to me because and he says, "Yeah, I want this guy who I'm not going to mention to respond," which is essentially how he treats me on his channel. Whatever. Fucking I don't give a shit. I'm just going to let you know right now, Jim, I'm not responding. You have basically shown yourself to be incapable of being a reasonable person and incapable of actually attempting to do anything more than be a fucking piece of shit. So, well, if all you're gonna do is be a fucking piece of shit, I'm not really interested in you. So, Yeah, he does that, and his justification for it is that because his videos get yeah, his videos get ratioed, and he thinks that I'm like directing people to go to his videos and raid the ratings. No, Jim. Your videos get ratioed because they fucking suck and no one likes you. They don't like you because you're a fucking dickhead and all you do is start shit with people. Fuck do I get up here? Yeah, this game is pretty fucking cool. It's just I don't know what to fucking do right now. Oh my god, please don't okay, that's now I feel like a retard. um yeah, please don't make me the new fucking Polygon journalist. You guys remember that clip of the Polygon journalist playing Cuphead and they couldn't even get past the tutorial level? And it like there were fucking visual instructions right on screen telling them how to get past the fucking wall on the tutorial level. It was like somebody with like a learning disability playing the game. I've never played Cuphead, but I can guarantee you I would be better than that. Yeah, I love shumps and run and gun games like Metal Slug or Gradius. Like that those games speak to my level of tism. I can play those games and not even die. I might have to do that one of these episodes. I'll stream Metal Slug and see and basically prove that I can do it uh without even using a single continue. I haven't played it in like 3 years, so I'm gonna be rusty as fuck though. Metal Slug 3 is the one specifically which I'm really good at. Like on my old Xbox Live account, I have the achievement for beating the game without using a continue and without dying on the last level. Which, if you know anything about the last level on Metal Slug 3, you know that's probably the hardest game to do that in out of the whole series. And that's the one I happen to be the best at. Oh, okay. Um, Let me check. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Okay. Oh, let's see the chat. Polygon. Oh yeah, the Polygon trying to play Doom. That was pretty great too. Is there some sort of like dash ability that I don't know about? Because it looks like that that's the only way that this sort of design right here would make sense. Like I'm sure I look like a scrub, but like I said, I've literally never played this game before the stream, so whatever. Oh shit. Yeah, I really need to play with a controller. Now all the dislikes are gone. I don't know. Maybe Jim and his little fucking friends had a bit of self-reflection when I went on that little rant. Yeah, you keep starting shit with people, people are just not they're going to continue not liking you. Let's read the chat some more. Do I have any thoughts on Kirk Wilcox? Haven't seen any of his videos. You should go ahead and give a link in the Discord server so I can watch after the stream. Um, yeah, apparently the dash is unlocked later, so when you beat Orphan of Chaos in Bloodborne while doing blood level 4 challenge. Yeah, I'd practice and do that for sure. Just to be able to say that I've done it. Like I remember I remember last year sometime I was doing a hangout with people in my server, and I was just playing F-Zero GX, and yeah, I beat the very last mission on hard live on my first try with max acceleration. I wasn't even snaking. I'm just fucking retardedly good at some of these games that are like everyone else thinks are extremely difficult. Filthy Heretic and Azure saw it, so you can go ahead and ask them, and they'll confirm it. Days Gone is a sleeper hit. Yeah, I've seen. What do you guys think of? I fucking I am at a loss for the name of that game. It's like I'm pretty sure this is wrong. It's like that open world like dungeon shooter. It'll Rain 2 or something like that. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of that? Hold on, let me kill this fucker and then I'll go ahead and check it out on Steam. Okay, it's apparently not letting... Risk of Rain 2, that was it. Yeah, what do you guys... I was considering buying that, like, a couple days ago, but then I saw the gameplay, and it looked like it would get fucking boring really quickly. At least that's... For me, that would get boring really quickly. Is it good? Can anybody in chat confirm if that game's good? I might play it on May's Patreon stream. Yeah, it's Risk of Rain. That's the game I'm talking about. Basically Anthem, but it doesn't suck. Well, okay, I guess I'll go ahead and try it. Fucking... Let me read some of the chat some more. Yeah, I love doing that in these games. Cutting down all the... Because it makes me... Like, I do that because I think that there's gonna be something inside of them. Like, I do that basically just to check all my bases. I got that from Castlevania, and I think that's probably where everybody who does that gets that from, because that's fucking exactly what Castlevania teaches you. Always knock down the fucking candles. God damn it. Starting to get used to these keyboard controls, and I don't know if that's a good thing because they suck. Next time I try playing a game normally, I'm gonna try jumping with Z. Playing like this. where I was. Did I see that Dark Conservatarian, had Filthy Heretic on the end of his stream earlier today? No, I did not, but doesn't surprise me. Did that stream with me. That guy's really nice. He's open to talking to people, so I'd go ahead and recommend people go ahead and check out his channel, even though he's a filthy minarchist. Yeah, some of those guys are okay, just not when they talk about the state. When they talk about the state, it's absolute cancer. But yeah, Dark Khan's okay because he tends to avoid that topic. Yeah, there are a lot of indie games which I haven't played, but I'm sure that I would like. Thing is, yeah, I don't tend. I'm a very frugal person. I don't tend to just throw money around. I am very deliberate with my spending choices. Like, I see something I want, and then I buy it. I don't see something. I do my research first, guys. Doing it the other way around is how you end up getting games like Action 52. Styx is not even a minarchist in... Okay, so a lot of people, they don't realize that the term minarchist, it was created by Samuel Edward Konkin himself, and a minarchist is not just a term, like, it's not just a political term which refers to somebody who thinks that through voting you can achieve a smaller government, or wants a smaller government, whatever the fuck that means. Because yeah, the problem with even the concept of a limited government is, the premise of a government is that you're forced to associate with it, and it can take whatever it wants from you. Even if you're going to ignore the economic problems with that, how it essentially is a system that can't survive without expanding itself. The how is there's no ethical case for minarchy, and that was sort of the reason, that was sort of Konkin's point why he said minarchy. It's still political rule. It's still just as unethical as any other kind of statism, just because the state takes a 5% flat tax of your income versus a 15% income tax and sales tax doesn't make it any better. You're still being subjugated by political rulers, and it still is gonna fuck with the economy. Holy fuck, I can't believe I just made that. Without dashing or anything. Damn it. Okay, of course. The Night Watchman state sounds cool. Yeah, see, that's the difference between an anarchist and a statist. The statists, even in their conception of libertarianism, is just less interference in the markets. Like, that's sort of like, you'll hear that occasionally. Minarchists say Ancaps, they just are against the state because they want freer markets. But that's actually projection on their part, because they're the ones who don't have any problems with the concept of political rule or political rulers, and their only objection to the state is a material one. I mean, if they saw it as being, they're the kind of people, if they saw it as being, uh, like more profitable to have a Stalinist society, they would do it. They would become tankies. I think I'm going backwards. Yeah, see, that's the other problem with minarchy is as a term which exists purely in a political sense, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just sort of, and by political term, I mean like it doesn't have firm etymological grounds. It's just sort of used by to describe government policies, and since all government policies presuppose a might makes right ethical system, there's not really any difference between minarchy and anything else. And that's the other problem is there's no definition of minarchy. So you literally could call yourself a tanky and a minarchist at the same time, and the minarchist wouldn't be able to propose a consistent argument against it. I have a that's one of the videos I have sort of sitting back on the hot burner is why conservatives can't win against socialists, and yeah, that's going to be a pretty interesting video. The next video which I have coming out, it's probably going to be later this week. It's not going to be a very long video which requires a lot of research like my last one did about Labor Day. But yeah, I have a pretty controversial video coming out next time. I don't think anyone here is going to have any objection to it. Because by controversial, I mean it has a super clickbaity fucking title. But yeah, it's about Austrian economics, and it's a problem which I've realized with the sort of Austrian conception of an economy. And like to be fair, I still would consider myself to be an Austrian. It's just that I've noticed a problem with the way Austrian economists think of how a market would work in the absence of a state, and I guess we'll think of it as a sort of something which they didn't think through consistently. But yeah, that's what the next video is going to be about. I'm just going in circles here. Let's read the chat some more, I guess. Name a problem which isn't caused by the state. Yeah, you really can't, can you? Pretty much everything that exists is every problem which exists is at the very least indirectly influenced by something that the state did. So how people cling on to it is nothing short of delusion. I like that. Hiding objects with foreground structures. Let's read some of the chat. Some more. Will I be your date to the Venezuelan Boogaloo? I don't know. Sure. The state exacerbates what exists naturally. I guess you'd have to specify what you mean by that. What I mean is, like a lot of things which are blamed on cultural trends, such as, the whole incel thing, or the Chads and the Stacys, so to speak, that sort of antisocial division which exists within society. It's actually created by conditions which exist as a result of the state. Um, the antisocial behavior, the lack of incentive to actually provide something for other people, what to where you can be content and essentially just act as a parasite off of society. That's created by the state through welfare programs mainly. I mean, I could go more into detail, but okay, let's see. What do I think of Ben Shapiro? I think I'm not a huge fan of Ben Shapiro. He is a fucking, well, for one thing, he's a neocon though. I think that's what most people would describe him as. But I think that the term neocon is a bit of a misnomer. It's kind of like the term deep state. It sort of implies that there's a right way to do statism and a wrong way. No, neoconservatism is actually just what Republicans is just republicanism in application. Once they actually get power, that's what they're all gonna do. So I don't know. I called him a neocon, I know, but that's not very accurate. Neocon is sort of like the term minarchist, really. Yeah, conservatives are all about facts over feelings. That's what they talk about when they go up against their favorite controlled opposition targets, like the fucking the college SJWs. But then when they get into talking about automation, they go full Luddite. Or when they start talking about police brutality and how the military is basically just being used by the US government as an enforcer for international monetary cartels, they shrivel up and they get triggered. No! America number one! The government can't do anything wrong! You're just a triggered libtard! Let's read what else people are writing. Yeah, tariffs are protecting our jobs even though they're not. Study got put out recently. I think it was by Harvard, which shows that for every job which is uh, which is gained, $880,000 are lost, both by as a net uh, contribution by the U.S. government and by fucking the producers, which are actually hiring these people, just on average. So yeah, see, that's the thing. They none of these statists realize. Well, I don't think I think some of them just don't realize, but I think some of it's also conscious. Oh fuck! Of course, right? I'm so fucking stupid. I went by that thing like 3 fucking times. I didn't even notice that. It's because I'm focusing on you guys, but you're not doing anything wrong, so don't feel responsible. Let's see. Yeah, that's gonna be in that video I sort of briefly touched upon. That's sort of going to be the point I make, is that conservatives really are no different than tankies, and that's gonna flip some fucking shit when I actually make that. Do I prefer playing keyboard over controller? I haven't played with a controller yet, so I don't know. I just know that this is awkward, but it works. fucking just completely cheesing that enemy. Hope some larger conservative finds the video and responds to it. Yeah, that really would be best case scenario. That's sort of like, I remember I was talking with Newsome in Shane's Discord earlier this morning. That's essentially how Dapperton got put on the map. He hosted that questions for statists video on his channel back in like 2016 with that guy T and Larkin Rose and all, and Freedom Tunes, and that fucking blew up because it got shared all over Facebook, and it got responded to by Sargon and V and Nightmare Fuel and a couple of other skeptics, while skeptics were still all the rage. Okay, let's... You beat Super Metroid on a keyboard. Oh my god, that must have been brutal. Okay, I guess I'm not gonna be able to get that right now. I'm gonna try and set up Streamlabs for the next stream. Hey, everybody in chat, do you like watching these gaming streams? Because like I mentioned in my last stream, I'm considering doing these more often as well. I mean, they don't really take a whole lot of effort, and it allows me to just kind of shoot the shit. So I sort of like this format. But yeah, I'm also, as soon as I stop streaming, I'm gonna start probably writing that controversial video. So, oh shit. Like, every time you hit something, it knocks you back a little bit. Like, I guess there's no problem with that. It's just, it takes a little bit to get used to. Like, normally it's when you get hit, you get knocked back. And even then, games that do that, it's complete fucking bullshit. But yeah, here, when everything's in the air, it's something you gotta get used to, I guess. Let's read the chat some more. It's a bit of a twist watching me play games on stream because you're familiar with my political content. Well, I mean, as you can see, I can talk about politics and play games at the same time, even though, you know, I sort of scramble for words though, because I'm multitasking when I do that. I'm focusing on two things at once. Honey Pop, fuck off. Honey Pop crowd. Yeah, okay. I'm not gonna play one of those on stream. I don't. For one thing, those games are all like expensive as fuck, and I'm not a fucking. You know, I'm not a frequenter of B. I'm not a B-tard, so that's not the sort of thing I'm into. Oh shit! I probably just hurt a bunch of people's feelings. No, it's fine to be into those like dating sim games or whatever. It's just I personally wouldn't play that because I'm not really interested. I'm not really interested in dating in general. The concept of being with another person and sharing my time with them instead of just sitting alone in my cave makes me shiver in my boots. Okay, we just got a $5 super chat. Most ridiculous BS you've heard someone say about crypto. God, I think I still think that the top of that um, crypto propaganda narratives. The worst one I've ever seen is that Bloomberg host who said that the value of cryptocurrency was based on the labor theory of value, and he basically slammed it as being Marxist. That's what he said. It's a Marxist theory of value. That's probably the most ridiculous one. I did a video responding to that. I'm sure there's gonna be worse, especially as the counter economy becomes bigger. But as of right now, I think that's the all time worst that I've heard. Yeah, that was his exact phrasing. Bitcoin is based on a Marxist theory of value. Which is Yeah, I'm not an incel. I'm fucking an incel is somebody who fucking sorry that distracted me. An incel is somebody who can't get a date or be in a relationship. I probably, there are a lot of people who like me. I'm sure I probably could. It's just I don't really want to. Well, I mean, I sort of technically am in a relationship with Kitsune. It's just, yeah, I don't want to. I don't know. The idea of being close to somebody causes me discomfort. What the fuck are all these things? All right. I don't know why I fucking keep getting out of this, but okay. I don't know what things I just bought. I know that I bought them. That's all that I know. Um, let's read some of the things people put in chat. No, I'm pretty sure that's just you, Asher. You're completely alone on that one. When am I doing Cool Capitalist Kids again? We're trying to find a better hosting platform. I think at this point we're probably just gonna use Google Hangouts until that thing burns out because we're not really having any luck with these other platforms. But yeah, we're on a sort of de facto hiatus right now, and that's the reason why is because we're looking for a new platform to host these streams on. But yeah, a bunch of stuff's happened, and I think I'm probably just gonna make a bunch of news videos on them. And did you guys see the Council on Foreign Relations conference, which happened about a month ago, where the host there essentially I've been telling you guys for the last few months now that there exist uh, sort of master narratives in the media. Well, that's the term that they used, but hold on, really quick. Well, there exist master narratives in the media, which all the media narratives sort of conform to. I'm trying to get out of this. I don't. Jesus Christ. All right. I think it was that was some keyboard lag. Sorry about that. But basically on the Council on Foreign Relations, they were talking about trying to combat fake news. That narrative, that justification for censorship that the political establishment's been using. And what he said is that the state creates master narratives, and he was working as the assistant secretary of the Department of Public Relations of the U.S. government, And he was also the former CEO of Time magazine from 2006 to 2013. I can't remember the fucking guy's name right now, but you could probably look him up based on that information. But basically, he admitted that that entire department, the Department of Public Relations, is just basically the United States government's equivalent of the Ministry of Truth, and that the U.S. government is controlling all the media, all the narratives in the media. I am amazed there were not like James Corbett's pretty much the only person who talked about it, but that's a pretty I mean, it's a pretty damning admission, and I'm kind of amazed that there weren't many other people who picked up on that and covered that. Well, I'd understand why it didn't get like mainstream coverage because the mainstream media outlets like Fox or Breitbart basically exist as controlled opposition. So acknowledging the existence of master narratives would sort of shoot themselves in the foot. And I'm probably gonna make a news video about that sometime this week, going over that in more detail. But that's something that happened recently. Uh, God damn it! Don't like people seeing who my friends on Steam are. But anyway, there was also recently it was Deutsche Bank is like getting close to bankruptcy. Uh, did you see what just came out earlier today? YouTube lost fucking $70 billion because of what they're doing with their algorithms and their demonetization of content. 70 billion. That's with a B. B. Billion. In just since last year. If any non-state associated company lost that much money, the CEOs of that company would be bankrupt. The company would be bankrupt. The CEOs of that company would be tens of millions of dollars in debt, and they would be homeless. Just for a frame of reference, the all-time worst financial decision in history up until this point was the Time Warner AOL merger in 2000, and that was a net loss of $90 billion for the companies involved. So, and this is just one company. One company lost $70 billion because of what they're doing with their algorithms. What would bankruptcy look like in an anarchy? Uh, well, there wouldn't be, probably wouldn't be filing Chapter 11 because corporations don't really exist. It's not that the business model doesn't exist, it's that what I mean is corporations as a legal entity are not a thing. But, yeah, totally, guys. Censorship and social justice are profitable. That's the reason these companies are doing it. It has nothing to do with the state influencing their policies and financially strong-arming them through organizations like the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. No, it's just profitable, guys. Fuck off. Great. I've been here before, god damn it. Yeah, that's not an oops sort of situation. That's a fucking big deal. $70 billion. Like if that financial statement was like a math test that my kid brought home from school, he'd get grounded for a month. For the record, I don't have kids. I'm just saying if I did have a kid and that sort of financial statement was an assignment which they brought home, I would treat it as an embarrassment to the family. This fucking guy again. I got your pattern down now, fucker. Wonder how long this is gonna take. Sorry if I'm not reading the chat in the meantime, but yeah. Boom. Fuck is this thing? How long have I been going? An hour and a half? Damn, time flies when you're having fun. Alright, let's see. Start. DuckDuckGo is better in my personal experience. I'd have to look into start page. Yeah, I broke the worm jar, so I did what I'm supposed to. Yeah, if realistically speaking, if I ever ended up having kids, I would not send them to government school. They would be homeschooled. I would not do that to my family. I will. Okay, for those of you who don't know, Black Spruce back in like March paid me $50 to make a video on Israel. I'm going to make a video on Israel. It's very low on my priority list. I will say that right now. But yeah, the things which have happened since, that's certainly given me a lot of ammo to work with. Yes, censorship isn't profitable. Who would have thought that systematically alienating your customers and not allowing them to use your platform wouldn't be a profitable decision? Like, holy fuck, how do people even think that it is profitable to censor people? Good lord. Okay, that's just a stage effect, apparently. Only 22% of Americans use Twitter, and that 10% of Twitter users make 80% of the tweets. Doesn't surprise me. I'd like to see a source on that. I might use that in if I ever mention Twitter again, I'll definitely cite that figure. Because yeah, that's what I've been saying for the longest time about sites like Twitter, is that they're really, I mean, they're basically dead at this point, and that's sort of the reason for this echo chamber. That's the reason why like these conservative figures like to pretend that Twitter is so popular, even though this is so clearly not a popular model. Is that if it didn't look like the Marxists were gaining in popularity, then fucking they wouldn't have anything to scare people. They'd have one less thing to scare people about. But no, Twitter is basically just a giant echo chamber. It's like Neo Tumblr at this point. All the actual good people got fucking banned like a year ago. Like even before I got banned, most of the actual entertaining people to follow were getting fucking BTFO'd, like Naked Ape. Like I don't really agree with Naked Ape's opinions. Like he was somebody that I got into when I was a statist, but my god is he entertaining. He's hilarious. Yeah, Reddit is I haven't really looked into Reddit, but based on, my experience with Redditors, it's basically just the other site which people on Tumblr went to, cuz Tumblr at this point's like MySpace. Isn't Well, it's not quite that bad. It's like MySpace in like 2010. It's not that bad yet, but it's going to probably get that bad soon here. Oof. Oh my god. Anybody else got any questions they want to ask, or anything that they want to talk about particularly? Yeah, there's not going to be a call-in segment like there was last month because that was absolute AIDS. Thoughts on Ned Kelly? You keep asking me about these people and these things I don't know about, and it makes me feel like such a plebeian because I just don't really listen to mainstream. I just don't really like tune in. Thoughts on Ron Paul? He's a good entry point for libertarianism, but the concept of government by contract is not something which could ever practically work since government sort of demands they sort of demand conformity by design. They require force to exist. Um, as for the idea in its conception, it's not a government if it's contractual. Basically, people like him are engaging in a form of cognitive dissonance where they want to attempt to justify something like the social contract by making it a literal contract, which that's the other problem with that is the idea that I can sign something and or I can create a document and other people just by being in the vicinity, or I can create terms which apply to other people which are not explicitly involved in that agreement. That's another big part of the problem with the social contract. People like Ron Paul are, I think they recognize the problem with the social contract. It's just they don't understand what to do about it. Or they don't understand how to respond. Well, it's pretty obvious. Social contract is not something which has any justification in its existence. Oh, okay, that's how you're gonna play it, huh? Can I go back? Yes, I can. No, okay. Had a big brained idea for a second there. Thoughts on the world wars. I need to do a video about those. Because yeah, the idea that the plans to start World War One, the plans to go to war on the part of the Germans was it was in motion long before Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated. On top of that, you have incidents like the Lusitania, which at this point, for the last decade or so, if you were to call that a false flag, you'd be called a conspiracy theorist. But at this point, it's pretty much just like concretely proven that the Lusitania, that like there were advertisements being run at the time, warning people about going on the Lusitania. The U.S. government was refusing to do anything. Um, like they were running it, but there were companies warning people. The U.S. government was wanting to ship it out anyway into dangerous territory, which they knew that it was going to get shot if they shipped it out there. Have I seen the documentary on the cost of clothes? No. I just got to admit though, that's a pretty uninteresting topic, especially when you have when you it's so easy to get clothes now. Okay, you got thrift shops, you got websites like Teespring. It's never been more affordable to get clothes. Sure. If you donate here, can I debunk a video by an Ancom? Yeah, I love responding to Ancoms. They've been pretty quiet lately, though. So, sure, if you donate, I'll do that. I'm reading the chat for a second here. How do you fight Article 13 and the death of internet free speech? You innovate the state's ability to do things like that out of existence. And that's what I'm doing with FNet. I'd say you ask how much money should you donate. Generally, I take $50. It's $50 for a request, but I mean, if you super chat, I'll just go ahead and I'll go ahead and respond. The reason why I make it so expensive is because there are a lot of people who would like to see me do responses, and if I were to just if it was like $5 or $10, I my videos would be nothing but requests, and there are like some essays I'm actually interested in making videos writing, so let's. The cost of clothes. I'll have to go ahead and watch that documentary. Based on the description which you're giving to me, sounds a lot like it's going to be a case of the government does something, the media blames the free market for it. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me if that's what it was. Let's see some more questions here. What if the government tries to ban mesh networks? Well, good luck with that. Problem is, just like a blockchain cryptocurrency network, they don't know exact. It's not proprietary. There's no real way of finding out uh, the origin of a signal, and anyone can set one up. Anyone can operate as a node, so good luck with that. It's actually the documentary is called True Cost. Have to watch it. It's gonna be bad though. I can tell just by what you're telling me. Yeah, ContraPoints is not untouched. There have been quite a few people responding to ContraPoints. As for H Bomber Guy, he hasn't really. There aren't any main videos he's done which really stand out to me. Three Arrows, I might definitely. I've been looking into responding to Three Arrows for a long time here. It's just I haven't really gotten around to it. And that's sort of like people like that, users like that, are sort of a case of exactly what's happening with Twitter. If you look at their ratings and you look at the comments they're getting in contrast with the amount of views that they have, it's very obvious that their audience is not actually that big. It's just that their videos are being promoted in the algorithms, so more people click on it because they come up in the front page recommendations. And Google's outright admitted to this, that they're promoting content creators like that. So I remember talking about that back in like November, just based on the Social Blade statistics. They there was like a weird spike that all of the like establishment liberal types and the Marxists had in like July of 2018, and it was across the entirety of YouTube. And I looked into that, and yeah, I was like, yeah, there you guys are clearly just being promoted in the algorithms, and people were saying, well, that's just a conspiracy theory. Well, turns out I was right again. Don't know how many times that has to happen where I say something, I turn out to be right, and everyone just sort of pretends that they never said anything about me. Is ending the Fed a first world problem? Every government has a central bank, so it's sort of it's a problem with every government, really. Even if they don't have a central bank, that's sort of one of the fundamental problems of any state is that you you can't, because the states are incapable of producing a commodity, they're not going to be able to produce a currency which actually operates as a commodity itself. Which, for those who, there's very little expanding upon the ideas of money in the mainstream. Uh, and if they do ever touch upon it, it's almost always money is valuable because we all agree that it has value, which of course is absolute bullshit. If that were the case, inflation wouldn't exist and market crashes would never happen. But also, I'm pretty sure I've never been to one of these meetings where everyone would have to be invited, sit down, and agree to a value for money. But yeah, basically the actual reason money has valuable is because money is supposed to be a commodity. And money is a commodity which is seen as being interchangeably valuable, i.e., it's seen as something which you simply trade to obtain something else, but you're not actually concerned about the commodity value of money itself. And so a lot of people don't know that, and they just sort like when you talk about cryptocurrency, something you'll hear a lot is, well, cryptocurrency, of course it doesn't have value. It doesn't have value because it's not backed up by anything. Well, that's not supposed to be the norm. The reason that monies which are produced by governments work that way is because governments are incapable of producing commodities. They can only redistribute. So anything that a government produces is going to basically, it's going to be an IOU. It's going to be a slip of debt. Now, a lot of people think that you can go back on reserve banking, like the gold standard. That's an argument that a lot of people will make. The problem with the gold standard, and the reason why reserve currencies will always invariably fail, is because in order to actually have a money which is structured around a no matter what, the state is going to print more notes into existence in order to sustain a reserve currency which that's the only sort of currency which it can create. And the problem with having a reserve based currency, like a reserve note that's backed up by gold or another preferred medium of exchange, is that eventually you're gonna have more supply of the currency in existence than you are going to have of the preferred medium of exchange. And that's exactly what happened with the US dollar. Like, a lot of people think, oh, politicians sold out to the central bankers. That's a sort of narrative which goes on. But in reality, the reason why the U.S. government went off the gold standard is actually pretty clear. This isn't even really speculative. In 1913, the central bank was started, of course, but the U.S. government created the Bretton Woods system because they realized, oh shit, we can still actually sustain a reserve note for, like, we prematurely went fractional reserve, mainly for World War I, but so they went back on a reserve note in 1944 to 1971, and in 1971, what happened is that the French government realized that they had more U.S. dollars in their treasury than the U.S. government claimed to have worth of gold to actually back the money that they had up. So the French government became suspicious of the U.S. government's ability to be able to back up their notes in gold. So essentially, they caused a bank run which defaulted the currency, and the U.S. government responded by simply saying, "Oh, gold. The U.S. dollar is no longer backed in gold." So basically, they fucked all of the people who were holding U.S. dollars over. And right after that, OPEC came into existence. Well, if you're familiar with my videos, then you'd know. But for those who are new, because I see there are quite a few new people in chat, basically, OPEC serves as an international cartel which forces countries of the world to trade in U.S. dollars for oil, because oil is a high demand commodity, and since fractional reserve notes don't really have any supply curves, they're necessarily not really going to have a market demand either. So basically, the demand is artificial and backed up by force. Countries are forced to trade with U.S. dollars, and if they want to trade in oil, and since that's also a big part of the reason why the European Union and the U.S. government have been so hawkish in foreign policy over the last 50 years, and why so much of their foreign policy specifically revolves around oil and economic agreements uh, with oil. What are my thoughts on the Civil War? Well, it depends on what you mean. My thoughts. What by my thoughts? Obviously, I'm not a retard, so I don't think that the war was about slavery. Lincoln pretty much said it himself that the war is not about slavery. But then you get into the other more overt facts, like the fact that the Emancipation Proclamation wasn't even signed until 1863, 3 years after the war started. The fact that there were Union states such as Delaware, which had slavery legal. Slavery was legal in those states. It was a war about secession. Pretty clear. I mean, I don't really know why that's even disputed. It's so obvious that it really should just be an uncontroversial fact. what's the most pathetic kind of statist or bootlicker? The ones that think that they're advancing some sort of libertarian cause. They're not the most pathetic, they're just the ones that piss me off the most. So I guess most pathetic in the way that I see things. Oh yeah, the idea of the Civil War being about slavery is almost like entirely because of the media and because of fucking government education. I mean, that's sort of my idea of the Civil War. Like I remember unironically thinking that for like the first 15 years or so. And yeah, that's where I got that from. I got that from government education and the media. That's sort of, I mean, John Kerry, even when he was, when he was in the government, like when he actually was in a position in the Obama administration, he said in 2013, the internet made governing invariably harder, and I mean, it's pretty easy to see why. That bottleneck of information, which allowed the governments to create master narratives, it exists, but it's invariably weaker now. I mean, granted, they've had relative success controlling the dissent through social media by promoting these ideas. Like, the government doesn't understand how to produce memes or how to get on social media, they just don't get it. Or that Trump is some sort of countercultural figure. Yeah, that's something which the media really loves to do, and something that the politicians really love to do is they love to. I refer to it as controlling the dissent. It probably has a more formal name I'm not familiar with, but it's different from controlled opposition because controlled opposition is when the government or the media will completely fabricate a movement or a group and use that to sort of create a narrative in society. But controlling the dissent is when an ideology or a group actually does originally form in sort of a grassroots sense, and like it's not state backed. They're not backed by the media. They have legitimate grievances, and they are against the political establishment. But they become inconvenient for the state. So what the state does is they have the media start appropriating their phrases and using them to represent causes which are safe for the political establishment, and then eventually that'll attract all of the normies to the movement, and they'll start presenting themselves as being interested in that cause, and pretty soon the original cause, which everyone was complaining about, will be completely forgotten about. It's what happened with the Tea Party movement. It's what happened with Occupy Wall Street. And it's what's slowly happening with the Yellow Vest movement. Like, did you guys, were you even aware of the fact that the Tea Party movement originally had absolutely nothing to do with the Republican Party or voting? It was originally a movement which was started to protest the results of the 9/11 Commission report. That's why it's called the Tea Party movement. It started in November of 2006 when the members of the original Tea Party organized in Boston and threw a giant printed version of the 9/11 Commission report into the Boston Harbor. speaking of Occupy Wall Street, it amuses me quite a bit to see conservatards talking about, oh, look at these amazing GDP figures. The economy's doing so well under Trump. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, you should read a book entitled Infectious Greed by, I think the author's name is Robert Lowry. I probably got that wrong, but essentially, the government and and companies are able to manipulate their growth and GDP figures by simply withholding the data and then releasing it all at one point at at an indeterminate time in the future. And that's what they're doing here. But if you look at what's actually happening, since the start of 2019, last time I checked, there were like 5,000 stores which were completely shut down. 250,000 real jobs were lost. So that's not like a result of automation or retail being innovated out of existence. No, that's like a result of stagnation and a lack of savings. There are just less resources in the economy, so there are fewer jobs being produced. And then you got YouTube hemorrhaging $70 billion, and you've got fucking Deutsche Bank going. I mean, this economy is bleeding like a stuck pig. But if you were to watch the media, they would be telling you that everything's just fine. No, it's pretty much entirely just inflation, and the reason why I got here while talking about Occupy Wall Street is that it seems like everybody's just entirely forgotten why they were so pissed off about the government stimulus in 2009. It's not just that, oh, well, rich people got a bailout, LMAO, so much for capitalism. No, it was actually because that created more debt, and because that created essentially just another giant bubble which everybody was talking about at the time. But yeah, it seems like they forgot about that because yeah, they're talking about how great the economy is, but since 2009 it's just been a giant bubble. No savings, no resources being produced. It's just constant spending. That's the reason why the only figure they cite is GDP. They don't cite the Human Development Index or any of these measurements which actually matter. Greenland is falling apart. Well, they basically, I mean, their industry there is just completely non-existent. I'm kind of surprised that, Greenland has been a thing for as long as it has. Well, let me clarify. I'm surprised it's managed to sustain a state for as long as it has. Yeah, I'm just sort of going in circles here, so I think I'm gonna just end this right now. I'm not gonna end the stream. I'm not gonna be playing Hollow Knight. Fucking hold on a minute. I'm sitting in an awkward place. My mouse is. Oh, for fuck's sake! Hold on. My fucking mouse is needs new batteries. God damn it! Really, right in the middle of a goddamn stream, this has to happen. Okay, hold on a minute. What are you talking about, Ichigo? Finland's a myth? Yeah, do you guys think perhaps maybe Greenland is gonna go stateless before Greece does? That'll be interesting. I'll tell you what. I'm not going to Greenland. That place is cold as motherfucker. Yeah, see, I'm not the kind of person that likes cold environments. Yeah, I'm fucking I'm small AF. I have an underweight BMI. I don't do so well when the air is super dry and cold out. All right. Anyway, okay, so I think my mouse is just glitching out right now. Well, I will be right back. I'm gonna go ahead and fucking change this shit out. Sorry about this. Oh my god, the dead air is nuts. Again, guys, really sorry about that. Alright, let's... Should be... Okay, yep. I'm gonna go ahead and go down to OBS. What the fuck, dude? This is not... What the hell, man? Dude, what the fuck? No, seriously, what is happening right now? I can't move my fucking... Jesus. I changed the battery and everything. My mouse is just stuck. No, I didn't put the batteries in the wrong way. I put them in the fuck... I put them in right. It's just not... Okay, now it's working for some reason. But, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get out a Hollow Knight now so I can answer some questions. No, it wasn't a boomer moment. That was the weirdest fucking thing ever. It just... My mouse just straight up stopped moving. Like, I don't know what the hell that was. It's not... I don't know why it stopped, but yeah, for like a good 5 minutes there. It was like stuck on a part of my foot. Like I've been opening up the Windows tab to switch between like, because when I have the Hollow Knight application open, it doesn't show my mouse. That's sort of how I've been clicking back and forth between the chat and the game. And yeah, so yeah, the founder of FNet versus a mouse. What a great endorsement. Um, yeah, I'll concede that was a boomer moment, but I have no idea what the hell just happened. So, okay. Let's see if there are any other things which anybody said. Esso is a twink trap confirmed. Not a trap, but first part's not necessarily wrong. I mean, I suppose if you're using a very liberal definition of that word. Thoughts on Sealand. I already expressed my thoughts about seasteading. Not a big fan. Well, it's not that I'm not a fan of seasteading. It's more that I don't think that it's very practical. Like I think that it's it's a principled idea. It's one of the few concepts of libertarian secession which is consistent and doesn't rely on state action. But yeah, I think that I'm not talking about Anprims. I'm talking about I presume Sealand is a seasteading project because I've heard something similar being proposed by Sealand the country. Okay. Well, yeah, Sealand is an oil rig with a family living on it, so that's seasteading. Uh, Thoughts on Zizek? I mean, I really have yet to watch the Jordan Peterson versus Zizek debate, but Jordan Peterson, I can just tell you right now, is not the kind of guy that could be going up against Zizek and expecting to win the debate. Yeah, Zizek is he's like basically apparently Jordan Peterson read the Communist Manifesto, like going in preparing to debate Zizek, and since Zizek is a post-Marxist and not a Marx-Leninist like a lot of people attempt to characterize him, that was, he sort of went in not knowing what the fuck he was doing, and yeah, that's another problem with that's another problem with yeah, conservatism, and that's the point that I'm gonna make. Well, conservatives, when they try and debate socialism, is when they keep defining socialism as, well, that's just when the government does stuff. I mean, that's a practical definition of socialism. That's more or less what it is in application. But no, if you're going to talk about the socialism or Marxism as an intellectual position, you can't be making arguments like that. You're going to get fucking blown the fuck out. Yeah, based on what I've seen from Zizek, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the dude is he's interesting to listen to for sure. I don't agree with him on a whole lot, but he is certainly somebody I can sit down and he's not stupid for sure. If he is, some of his stuff is just nonsense, but for sure Zizek is he's something to listen to. I'll give him that. Do you know any good anarchist jokes? Yeah, I can't say that I do. I, I, I gotta clarify. I don't think like I'm not a fan of Zizek by any means, and like he's more into the like he gets more into like the cancer side of postmodernism, like the post structuralist brand. But yeah, I can listen to him at the very least. Please give your definition of anarchism and anarchy. Thoughts on volunteerism as anarchy without adjectives or anarcho primitivism. Well, I define anarchy the same way that anyone's ever defined anarchy. The moral opposition to the concept of coercive political rule, and I think that the individual is best left so to determine what their lives should be like on their own, and I think that individuals should best voluntarily organize to create society, and we can demonstrably prove that all that the state does when it gets involved from a practical perspective is it degrades society. It degrades society, degrades our quality of life. It causes crime, and it victimizes people, and that's really all that the state is fundamentally when you get down to it. Is it is a parasite which it coerces people and it victimizes them in order to benefit itself and to sustain itself so that it can continue doing that in the future. Have I read Stirner or Nietzsche? I've read a little bit of Stirner, and I've read Nietzsche to its entirety. I got to say, I'm more of a fan of Nietzsche than I am Stirner, particularly because Nietzsche, while he does he does reject concepts of like objective ethics, he does acknowledge that the individual should find purpose in their life. Like a lot of people, like they incorrectly describe nihilism and they incorrectly describe Nietzsche's perspective on it. But no, Nietzsche specifically warned about pe- uh, people just going through their lives without any sort of meaning. He referred to it as the absurdism, the absurdist, somebody who has no meaning, and the way that they perceive the world is just that nothing matters. He warned about that very specifically. I'm just reading Spitfire's question. I think Peterson's right about tech jobs and automation pushing low IQ people out of work with no. He's not though. That's a Luddite fallacy. Specifically, it's the lump of labor argument. The idea that there's sort of a fixed set of jobs. See, the thing that conservatives and protectionists don't realize is that automation it creates more resources to be circulated in the economy, and it creates more economic opportunity. Now, these aren't necessarily jobs in the traditional wage sense, but yeah, the reason automation is happening is because it's becoming more efficient and it's costing less to become a producer. And that scares the shit out of the government because the government, for the longest time, has been using sort of the corporatist model and been making it a lot more difficult for people to become producers through usury laws and various finance regulations. Specifically, because if someone is in a position where they're not self reliant, when they're not economically self reliant, when they're not producing for themselves and trading, then they're going to have to associate with these politically connected firms which are associated with the state. So it's more and more difficult to get around uh, trading with the state and associating with state connected firms. That makes it easier for them to track people's revenue, and that makes it easier for them to control people's finances. It's sort of what you see under the current system is I would compare it to it's sort of like a modern version of the guild system. Like I mentioned this in my video about the 20th or late 19th century labor movement and what trade unions do. But this is more or less just for pretty much all the branches of the state which are in charge of quote unquote regulating the economy. The purpose is to try and centralize the means by which people can trade as much as possible, and to make it uh, harder and harder for people to make a living for themselves and to be independent from any of the state connected firms. That's the reason why the state loves banks so much. It's not necessarily like that. That's pretty much the only. organization where associating with the state is reciprocal, in that the banks have some influence over the state in the sense that their currency can't really be produced unless the banks are creating loans and debt to back it up in a market sense. But also, yeah, the state also has considerable control over the banks, and the state relies on the banks to exist. They like the banks, and they like people associating with certain banks because if your account is associated and all your finances are with one politically connected um, bank or a series of different banks which all have close ties to the state, well, then they have easy access to all your finances and they know exactly what you're doing. That's the reason why the state's trying to move more towards cashless transactions, like directly from your credit card to whoever you're trading with. Now, cashless is not necessarily the same thing as cryptography, and a lot of people get those confused. But all right, let's read some more of the stuff people are putting in chat here. Do I think Russia rigged the election? Yeah, and I think that the Soviets are trying to take over South America too. What kinds of music do I like? It depends. I've been on like a Dropkick Murphys kick lately. Like I've been really getting into them. My favorite songs of theirs are "Going Out in Style," "Good Rats," and "The Boys Are Back." Um, I like Rancid quite a bit too. I'm also kind of into industrial metal, like Static X, the groove stuff particularly. So I kind of listen to Pantera every once in a while. Um, and Sepultura, it's pretty good. Favorite and least. I don't like any U.S. presidents. It's a dumb question to ask me. What is the Ancap solution to climate change? I have a video about this actually. If you want me to go more into detail, I did a video on the Green New Deal, and I explain and the thing is, when you have the state controlling your resources, you get or the state has nationalized the environment, you get a phenomenon known as that's been conventionally referred to as the tragedy of the commons, where people don't have any incentive to actually maintain the environment, so they just sort of strip all the resources and don't give a fuck what happens. And if the land was privately owned, you'd have people would have a direct incentive to actually maintain the environment, and we actually have working examples of this, like the fact that 86% of all the trees which are planted every year are planted by lumber companies. Oh well, I mean there are regulations and stuff. Well, I mean if it was a result of regulations, then you'd think that the state would be doing it more than the companies would. But no, it's the state only makes up for like 5% of the trees planted annually. I mean the 9% in between there are the tree farmers, the people planting orchards. Is it possible to live entirely off of crypto and barter currently? Uh, I don't know. Actually, I'm pretty sure that it would be, but you'd have to sacrifice quite a bit in the current white market. Uh, I think it would be really easy to become self-reliant in terms of energy. You could get a generator to power your electricity. You could now we've got things like, well, FNet that are coming out where you don't need to associate with an ISP. Most people already don't pay for cable because cable is basically a dying medium. Uh, yeah, you could go down to the farmer's market, and you could go down to the flea market to get like your general goods and your food. Yeah, I'd say that if you lived in if you lived in the right area, it would be entirely possible. Like if you lived in a rural community or if you lived in a decently big city. Douglas is not the only person. Like we have a couple of different programmers for those who are curious, and Douglas Terabyte, the person who just did that collab with Filthy Heretics, one of them. He's not the only one. We also have Karako who's working on it. Um, we have AUN who's working on it. There's a couple of different people who are actively contributing and we're talking with. But yeah, we're working on FNet, and it's really starting to pick up now. As I mentioned earlier in the stream, all of the components for FNet are done. We're just putting it all together now, and that's probably like it sounds like it's going to be it's going to be out soon based on you think, oh well, all the components are done, so obviously, if the components are done, then necessarily it should be close to being finished. But no, actually, that's the easy part. Putting this all together is going to be the bulk of the work. So I would expect it. Like I have a really bad habit of trying to make predictions for when these things will be out. But if I were to put out an estimate, we're gonna try and have it done by like October or November of this year. And the day that we have planned, like that we're set on, we want it to be released on December 31st of 2019 to sort of usher in the new decade. Cause yeah, this decade's kind of sucked, really. I mean, in 2010, social justice wasn't even a thing. That's how long ago that was, and that's how different things were. How can we help spread knowledge of FNet to normies? I actually have a plan for that. Well, for one thing, FNet it has in one of its various mechanisms a system which sort of it inherently incentivizes from a material standpoint people to use FNet. Basically, we're developing our own cryptocurrency which has a high payload that's going to work with like it's a very complicated system, but it's going to work with sort of a monetization system which is built into the protocol. Everyone is able to put out advertisements, and the network tries to algorithmically sort out the best ones to put out on any page. And the closer that each person is to one another, like in their individual nodes, it will basically it'll incentivize people to operate as as sort of it'll incentivize people to operate as ISPs for one another, and it'll make finding work incredibly easy. Um, because the network sort of works around this cryptocurrency, and but because there's a built-in crypto miner, uh, the currency also, it has demand because it has sort of a built-in system which encourages people to produce it and spend it. But yeah, it functions as sort of a de facto UBI. It's a genius idea which I came up with specifically to give people an incentive aside from just this being an alternative. You see, that's the problem with how most alternatives to YouTube, Google, or any of the mainstream platforms advertise themselves. Is that's their only selling point. Well, we're better than the alternative. But no, you need. I think we've seen pretty clearly that an alternative is not enough of a selling point to get people away from YouTube, Google, or these other platforms. You actually need something which acts as a universal incentive, and that system is sort of what we created. But as for, I completely lost my original train of thought. How can we help spread? Okay, I got it again. How can we help spread knowledge of FNet to normies? Well, the thing is, yeah, the media is going to pretend that it doesn't exist, and we're going to get. I don't think we're going to get censored because of the Streisand effect. They know that if they take down content, then it sort of attracts people to it. But yeah, I think that what we're going to do is it's great that FNet just happens to be coming out on an election year, because the idea that I've had is we're going to start paying people to dress up in like really costumes which really catch your eye, and hold up signs which advertise FNet, and like during the presidential campaigns, they're going to get behind the candidates on national television and be wearing this costume, which makes them stand out more than the actual person on stage holding up an advertisement for FNet. That's the idea that I've had so far. Uh, as for like the iconography and branding that FNet is going to have, uh, there have been a couple of different ideas thrown out by the dev team and the directors of the project. So I, Filthy Heretic, and the people that were mentioned before. The one that we like the most, I think the one that sort of stuck the most, is the Infinity Gauntlet of the Internet. Now, I'm sure your first thought's probably going to be, but Marvel DMCA. Well, the thing is, FNet kind of makes copyright impossible to enforce on the internet, so guess they can cry about it. And FNet's not really a company; it's not owned by anybody, so they can't really sue us. Okay, let's see. Have I ever watched the YouTuber Fena? No, I haven't. If he's a CGI animator, I tend to stay away from that part of YouTube. FNet, where Article 13 does not exist. Not just that. It's not just where Article 13 doesn't exist. It's where fucking it can't exist, and nothing like it could ever come into existence. It's inherently non-proprietary. If that actually happens, then that's amazing. I mean, we're already like a decent way into the project. It's happening. How the only question is going to be how successful it turns out. And considering that I was talking about IPv6 earlier, FNet has a function, like basically FNet's going to be built around IPv6. So we're essentially going to be mainstreaming the IPv6 protocol. So that's another way in which we're going to be encouraging people to be using FNet, is we're essentially, well, IPv6 isn't a protocol, it's an addressing system. I misspoke, but yeah, we're essentially going to be mainstreaming the IPv6 addressing system, and that will essentially make it that'll make proprietary services less efficient. That'll make them slower, and more bandwidth will be used for decentralized services. So yeah, it'll more or less just be, you know, completely inefficient and not profitable to run a centralized proprietary server at this point. Yeah, FNet. I'm kind of surprised it. We've tried advertising it as is, but we're sort of also we're keeping it to the FNet Discord server, but while it's in development, we're not really focusing on advertising it. But yeah, the anti-copyright pirate communities would love FNet. I think everybody's gonna love FNet, even the authoritarians, because it's a system which literally pays you to use it. But the but yeah, it's sort of a self sustained payment system. It's pretty difficult to describe. Anyway, so unless anyone else poses any questions for right now, I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream here. This was really fun, guys. I thought this was a great stream. I really appreciated talking with you. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go now. So I'll go. First of all, I'm going to put a link to my Discord server in the chat here, because a lot of people have been asking about links to my Discord or how to get into my Discord, and yeah, here is a link to that for anyone who's watching the stream right now, so we can talk after the stream. It was great. It was great doing this. I'm looking forward to the next stream. I'll see you all next time.